In the previous video, we established the asset and location hierarchy, registered organizations to streamline company management across units, plants, departments, or other distinct business units, set up warehouses stocked with diverse inventory products, and formalized contracts with suppliers to bolster the maintenance department's operational support. Building on this groundwork, our current video delves into the intricacies of our preventive or routine maintenance procedures within the application, leveraging the data and structures we've already put in place. To achieve this, we'll start by generating maintenance templates. Next, we'll create maintenance activities, and then move on to the complete work order module, which will serve as the core of our day-to-day operations. We'll now proceed with the activities module. Upon entering the activities module, it is divided into two sections. Scheduled activities, in this case we don't have any activities yet, and templates. The templates section allows me to create activities, or, as the name suggests, maintenance templates to assign to my different assets. This is very similar to a maintenance plan or the activities we'll be doing preventively. One advantage of templates is that we can also use them for corrective maintenance if we already have a list of planned activities. It's important to mention this, but we'll see it in the next video. When creating a template, we'll enter the activity's name. In this case, it will be maintenance for a van that will be performed every 6 months or every 10,000 kilometers. Van maintenance every 6 months or 10,000 km. We use the activity's name to easily understand what it refers to. Next, we have the recurrence option. When we mark an activity as recurring, we need to indicate its frequency. The platform allows us to have date-based frequencies. In this example, it will be every 6 months, but we can also have activities whose scheduling depends on reading a counter on the equipment. When we select the by counter option, a list of readings we're recording in the system becomes available. Since this is a new account, we don't have any records yet, but we can create one now. In this case, our unit will be kilometers. Once we save the information, we can select that option. After this, we need to indicate how often this activity will be performed. In this case, every 10,000 kilometers. We can also assign a priority to the activity. Let's assign a high priority in our example. We can also indicate the estimated duration required to perform the activity so that we can later track any deviations from the times we've allocated. We can also specify the activity type, which in this case is preventive. After this, we'll have the list of activities to be performed. In this case, since we're talking about preventive maintenance of a vehicle, we'll list the following: oil change, filter change, engine cleaning, coolant replacement, and finally, tire rotation. This is essentially the checklist that our technician or the person performing the activities will have to mark off, and all of this will be included in the activity. Next, we have the measurements section. Here, we select from the list the measurements we want to take. If they're not in the list, we add them with their corresponding unit of measurement. Let's say in this case our measurement will be assessing the condition of the tires. Measurements can be of two types, qualitative or quantitative. If they're quantitative, we can enter the name, unit, and define minimums and maximums so that the system alerts us when we exceed these limits. If they're qualitative, for example, we'll assess whether the condition of the tires is good, bad, or average. Let's save this value and add it for measurement in this activity. Next, we have the attachments section, where we can attach manuals, procedure lists, and other useful documents for performing activities. This allows technicians to review them when needed, as this information can be accessed in the work orders assigned to them. Finally, we have the cost section. Here we can add 4 different types of costs: non-inventory parts, inventory parts, services, and others, such as fuel, expenses, or miscellaneous items. Let's add an inventory part in our example. For inventory parts, we can select products from our warehouses. When adding non-inventory parts, we simply indicate the product we'll use, for example, adding 4 liters of oil, specify its cost, and save it to add to our maintenance template. Once we have this template, we can save it and generate another similar one, or simply save it so that this information is recorded. These templates are available for consultation and editing at any time. Let's create another template that is scheduled by dates. In this case, we'll create a template for room maintenance that we do monthly. Remember, our example is maintenance for a hotel that includes both facilities and equipment that also require maintenance. In this case, our activity will also be recurring and will be performed once every month. We'll set the duration to 5 hours for completion, and in the task list, we'll include cleaning, check bulbs and replace, if necessary, patching and painting defects on walls, checking smoke detectors. This will be the task list for our technician. Here too, we can add measurements if desired, attachments, and costs. Let's indicate that it will have medium priority and save it. The templates are saved. We can navigate between them and even search using any word that might be in the template to locate it more quickly. These templates make the process of creating maintenance activities easier. To begin scheduling activities, we need to specify the assets that will receive maintenance through these activities. In our example, we'll start by specifying the activities that will be done in the rooms. We can select several assets that have the same activity, go to the Actions section, and create an activity for them. When creating an activity, we can see that we need to fill in the same information as in the templates. So to simplify this process, we can select a template. Let's select, for example, the monthly room maintenance template. Note that all the information from the template has been loaded into the activity. However, we can still enrich the activity with more information. For instance, let's add inventory parts from our Cancun warehouse. In this case, we'll add a liter of white paint directly and save it. We can make subsequent modifications to avoid having more templates than necessary and to adapt them to all types of equipment. While generating the activity, we'll see additional fields. One of these fields is the initial stage. We'll delve into the stages later in the work order configuration. Next is the Schedule Activity section, where we'll specify the date the activity will be scheduled. We can select the same value for all assets or set individual values. In this case, we have two different floors. Let's set all activities for Floor 1 to be first performed on the 8th of the current month, and for Floor 2, we'll select the 8th of the following month. This date depends on the last maintenance date. When scheduling activities, we can indicate if an activity can be performed throughout the day or if it requires a specific schedule. Often we have equipment that needs to be operational, for example, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So for our example, we can specify that the activity must be done starting at 8 a.m. and save it again. We can also indicate if these activities will be cyclic, meaning they'll be automatically rescheduled every time they're closed indefinitely, or we can set a deadline date, meaning they won't be rescheduled after that date. This is useful, for example, for short-term activities. In our example, we'll mark our activities as without an end date. Once we've filled in all the information, we'll save the activity. The previous example was about a date-controlled activity, but we can have activities with both date and meter readings. Let's now use the example of a vehicle. Let's select the asset van, go to the Actions button, and select Create Activity. When generating the activity or selecting a template for activities controlled by both date and meter readings, we need to indicate the current meter reading for that activity. In this case, the activity scheduling section will be divided into two: scheduled date and current reading. In the scheduled date section, let's indicate, for example, that this activity will be time-based until July 23rd. Then, in the readings section, we can indicate that this activity, for example, has never been performed. The current reading is 5,200, and it will show that the next activity will be at 10,000 kilometers. For instance, if the last activity was done at 100 kilometers, the system will calculate when the next activity will be based on this reading, which in this case would be at 10,100, as it's counting this reading plus the 10,000 programmed. Here, let's again indicate that there's no previous activity and that it currently has 5,200 kilometers. Other than that, everything else we've seen in activities controlled by date or by both date and meter readings remains the same. We can add measurements, attachments, and costs. Here again, let's remember that we can add additional costs. These additional costs could be, for example, an air filter that will be changed in our vehicle. Once we confirm this activity, we'll click Save again. These activities we're generating can be done, as we did just now from the Assets section, by selecting and going to the Actions part to generate the activity, or we can also do it from the Activities module. Here in the Activities module, we can add or select Create Activity, and the difference is that we'll have to select the asset beforehand. To do this, we simply select our organization, select the assets we want to assign a task to from the list, and everything else works exactly the same. So, this is another way for me to easily create activities for my assets. When I create these activities, I can now see them in this table. In the Scheduled Activities table, I'll be able to see everything I need to do. These are not work orders yet. This is a preview, showing what tasks my assets have planned for the selected time period. Here I have these rooms since we scheduled their activities for the 8th of this month. If I want to filter, I can quickly select. For example, let's say I want to see everything I have to do in the opening shift. So I can select a time frame and we'll see that maintenance for our floor 2 room is displayed. Also, I can select to view all activities. In this case, it will show me indefinitely what I have to do or what is pending from all my assets. In this activities section, we'll see that I can access all the information. From the location type, I can pre-assign users to my activities, manage my scheduled ones, recurrent ones, and also see how they're controlled. Remember that all these tables allow me to search and also to organize my views to have the information I need at that moment. This is a way for me to check the activities I have to perform, but I can also check it in a planner format. To do that, let's go to the Assets. Here, once selected, we'll go to the Actions section again and select the Planner option. In the Planner, I'll see that I already have these activities planned. These activities can be viewed in a weekly format. Here I see everything scheduled from May 5th to 11th and so on each week to see the activities in this period. I have a monthly view, as this is a monthly activity. I can see all the activities that occur each month, and I also have the option of a daily view. This gives me a more focused view of what needs to be done this week. This planner will help me check both the scheduled activities. I'll be able to see which activities are still in progress, meaning they still have an open work order but are already being executed. And also the overdue activities so that I can quickly reschedule them. If I want to reschedule, I can simply drag and drop, and all subsequent activities will also be modified. So this is another way for me to check all the activities planned for my assets. From the scheduled activities, we'll also be able to check the inventory products. For this, I will select the option to view all activities, and in the Activities section, we will have different actions. One of the actions we have is to check inventory products. When we check this option, all inventory products assigned to the activities will appear. This way, I can also check the required stock. I'll be able to see the current stock and the stock shortfall. If I know that I don't have enough quantity in my inventory to carry out the activities, this will be marked for me to know that a purchase needs to be made. That's why I can also export this information to consult with my purchasing department and ensure that I have the necessary resources to carry out the activities. Additionally, within the Mass Actions section, we'll see that I have mass editing activities. This includes editing activity costs in bulk to simplify this process, editing the task list to add a new activity if I want to modify what's planned, assigning to our users, rescheduling our activities. In this case, we will be able to assign our users to carry out the activities at this moment, or as we will see later in the Work Orders section. As you can see, these activities we have here are only indicating the period due to having a scheduled date. This scheduled date is based on the frequency we select. For assets with meter readings, the system will listen to these meter readings that will be updating to indicate that the activity needs to be performed. Let's practice this with our van, which is the asset we currently have with activities controlled by meter readings. To update the meter reading, I can again go to the Assets module, select my van, and go to the Actions section. In this section, I'll be able to update the readings for this asset. Here, when I have multiple assets, I can update all the ones I need. Remember that our activity was scheduled for 10,000 kilometers. So, in this case, let's say it's 10,100 kilometers for it to be performed. Here, the system has validations so that I cannot enter readings lower than the last reading, as this is not possible with our assets. Once I enter this activity, I'll click Save. This will generate that our Activities section, the van maintenance activity, will be scheduled for the next day. Since we have fulfilled the quantity or 10,000 kilometers, we'll see that the scheduled date has changed, as we were indicating whichever comes first, the reading or the date. Since our reading came first, it's scheduled for tomorrow for us to carry out the maintenance activities. This is how we also work with meter readings to trigger our maintenance activities. Once we have this activity scheduling, the next step is to generate work orders for their execution.